Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Broker Capital podcast. Today, we're very lucky to be joined by Katie Thomas, who is the founder and director of Focus Finance, which was ranked as the number one brokerage in the country by the Advisor and by AMA. So that's pretty impressive, Katie. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I feel very lucky to have you here. So how did you make your way into mortgage broking?
Well, I started in banking at 18. I started as a teller in the bank, and really lending is what I wanted to do always. So I kind of just went through the corporate career first, doing all things in banking. Then 6 years ago, then moved it into the broking space once I kind of worked out that banking is limited options for clients.
100%. Wow, only
Yeah.
6 years in business. It's amazing how quickly
Yeah.
things can happen in broking.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, Focus itself has existed since 2023. So Focus
Yeah.
Finance has been
Wow.
3 years. Yeah,
That's incredible. And what sort of loan volume are you writing now
individually or the business.
as a business?
Business wise, we'll settle. So we'll do over 100 million roughly a month in apps, and settling sort of that 80 to 100
Yeah, wow. So
conversion.
so a billion in a year is
Yeah.
achievable.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Very impressive. And what's the split between resi and commercial?
Largely resi. The commercial that we would do at this point is still, it might be a commercial asset, but it's more for the purpose of being part of a investment portfolio, not necessarily straight up commercial, vendor financing and that sort of thing.
Nice. Is there a typical profile of client that you go for or that ends up
Uh,
finding you?
yeah, so again, we've got different brokers in the business with different skill levels, but largely I've always dealt more in that complex space. So complex self-employed, complex investor is really more of what we would do. My natural affinity with that client type landed me with a lot of them.
Love it. Would you say that most of the clients have multiple loans or multiple properties?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And what's the size and structure of the team? How do you run Focus Finance?
Yeah. So there's 5 brokers, including myself. So 4 other brokers outside me.
Okay. Yep.
And then there is now 30 people in the team, but there is a mix of what those roles are. So 5 brokers all told, and then an amount of support roles, operations, EA, etc.
Wow. And are you still on the tools writing loans?
Yeah,
Nice. And do you
yeah.
think that, I mean, you're at a scale now where I would have thought if you wanted to, you could totally step back. So it sounds
Mhm.
like it's a choice. Can you talk to me about that, the logic behind that?
Yeah, I love being a broker. And some of these clients I've had for more than a decade.
Okay.
So
Well, so,
you've got
so when you're at the bank, they were your client?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of them now works here. So you kind of uh, really just build this affinity with people, and you start just being part of their life in such an integrated way, and you forget really that you're their broker, and that relationship evolves into quite a friendship. Stepping away from that is probably a little difficult to do, and I genuinely love the lending. I love the strategy. I love the complexity. I love all of that side of it. This year, I definitely do less of it, and it's kind of distilled down to clients from a skill set perspective. I really do need to be on whilst we coach up the team to be able to be on that high level of file, which we'll absolutely do. So I'll be needed less and less and less. And then I can just squirrel my way around the office and annoy everybody and integrate myself wherever I want to on their appointments anyway, because I love it.
Mhm.
But I don't need to be writing the same sort of volume on the entry level investor. The team is very skilled.
Love it. Sounds like you have an office. Does everybody come into the office? What's the approach there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, we have 2 locations, but not necessarily for client demographic, just more we're in Newcastle and the Hunter Valley. So my team kind of is a mix of Newcastle, Maitland, and Hunter Valley. So just really for the dynamic of their home life and their families, we have one office closer to them and then one Newcastle based office, just so they've got a better commute really. But our client demographic is all over Australia, so their physical location really is less important. But then twice a week we will all work in the same office together, just because we like hanging out with each other and going to the pub on Friday largely.
Amazing. So are you mainly in the Newcastle or the Hunter Valley office?
I'm a real mix.
Okay.
And my days are totally different to the rest of the team between business meetings, podcasts, going to Sydney for meetings, doing a round table, whatever. So I could be traveling, I could be doing that, I could be in the office, I could work from home that day if I'm kind of split between a location that I'm going to. I can be in a lot of different locations. The team way more structured, so they tend to have their set Newcastle and Beresfield days or Maitland days, and then they all tend to have a work from home day thrown in there somewhere else as well, just to really hone in, because it is a very banter-filled environment within the office. So sometimes it's nice for them to have their day hyper-focusing.
As in, there's so much banter in the office that it's kind of like if you need to do
Yeah,
that deep work, you got to step away.
for sure.
Oh, I love that. And so what was it like making the transition from working in the bank to going out as a broker?
Well, mine's probably a bit unique because I happened to jag the year that I thought this was going to be a good idea in COVID. So
That's tough.
well, it turned out amazing, but certainly that was year one. So for me, January, I left in December 19, so I started January 20, and then
Yeah.
within months, the world is ending. So it was a little bit of that early days of going, this could go terribly. It obviously didn't. The industry knows how well it went, but so my first year probably would look nothing like anybody else's would ever happen again. But
What do you mean by
also,
that?
well, because surely they hopefully don't have to deal with a global pandemic in
Oh,
their
okay,
first year
right.
of business.
So it was a pretty quiet first year?
No, it was hectic. No,
Oh.
because the rates plummeted. So everybody now had borrowing capacity. So
Mm.
the ramp at that point was enormous. Um, yeah, so no. It was very, very busy. And I also had, because I had been in that community and had relationships for such a long time.
Mm.
So my transition was quite easy in that regard. What was difficult straight out the gate was really more managing, firstly, the expectation around what did we think the industry was going to do as a reaction to COVID. Then, of course, we had all of the changes from policy perspectives that happened to navigate in that first year. So I not only had to come out of one policy, one val tool, all of what that looked like, and then move it in as Connective. And at that stage, they don't have the CRM that everybody now sees with Connective. It was quite an outdated CRM at that stage. So moving into banking being a higher level of tech into broking, lower level of tech at that stage, more comparable now,
Uh-huh.
and navigating that. Then with the ever-changing policies that happened to land in that particular year, we had the super cash outs that you could do, and then people trying to use those for
Yes.
deposits. We had
Yep.
lots of different stuff that happened in that year. So my first year is probably not going to be comparable to anybody else's. It landed absolutely fine in the end, but I already had relationships. I already had people that knew me. From a lending perspective, I had a lot of people that I knew. So I had volume out the gate, and then rates plummeted. So it was quite chaotic. And I think I have nearly spent 6 years trying to catch it.
Wow. Jeez. In the end, it
Yeah.
was a blessing, I suppose, for the
Oh,
business as well.
yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely was. But there were a few moments there early on where you're like, okay, you've chosen to leave a reasonably well-paying role to get paid nothing
Yeah.
currently. And now we are very uncertain around what this climate's going to do. This could go terribly. Maybe no one's going to be able to lend. It didn't go that way, but there was a couple of months there where no one really knew.
When you were working at the bank, did you ever think you could build a brokerage that wrote $1 billion a year?
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. Confident.
Yeah. Well, I wrote volume at the bank too.
Okay.
So I didn't have, I guess I already knew relationship building was fine. I knew my commitment to what I do, and I knew my own personality type from a level of growth and expansion and growth mindset. So I never really intended to come out and do anything in a small way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love it. Ambitious from the start. And when you said that Focus has only been around for 3 years. So what were you before that when you first went out on your own?
Yeah. So when I initially left the bank, I went into another brokerage at that stage. Yeah. And then we had a business separation in 2023. And that's when I created Focus at that point by myself.
Okay, I love it. How important is it to you being part of this Hunter Valley, Maitland, Newcastle community because at the same time you're saying that your clients are from all over Australia. So how does that fit in together, that sort of local plus Australia wide?
Just a little bit of both. There's the local base of people that I've known forever and, have those relationships. And then the national expansion of that was the best thing from COVID, to be honest, because prior to COVID, we had a real tech limitation around how to ID people. The Teams meetings were complicated. There was still a lot of emphasis on meeting face to face, and that was a real limiter. COVID was actually the instigator for going, okay, well, we can do this nationally. We don't need, I can't see you anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're a street over from me or 2 states away. So that really set the scene for that. And because I had real estate relationships in the Hunter Valley, where a lot of Sydney siders would buy their investment properties and their weekenders in the Hunter Valley, which are quite sizable estates in there, and they're lovely in the vineyards. Very, very, very fortunate to live there. That network very quickly expands once people are buying in my location but don't live in my location. But then the ripple effect of that going, okay, well, you're from Sydney, but these are highly affluent people that are buying those styles of properties. So the ripple effect of your network when we're all just sitting at home anyway is quite broad.
That makes a lot of sense. How do you think about multiplying your personality, as in you have this lovely personality that I can see you just instantly connect with the clients who are your borrowers? How do you then multiply that and build a culture within the company where that's gonna still remain true, even though you can't be involved in every single conversation?
Well, I would say, and I think the team would tend to agree, we don't need more of one of my personalities.
Yeah. Okay.
They everyone in the team, all the brokers, we have 5 brokers in the team, and we have 5 different personalities. We don't need to replicate mine at all. All we need to do, and this is what we do from a lead funnel perspective as well, because I supply all the leads to the business. So as we do a lead intake perspective, we have a process around how this happens, but we're really aligning the client to the broker from a skill set and from a personality perspective where that rapport is going to work really well. There are a lot of clients that my personality does not work well with at all because I am at a different interest level, or I guess from a sophisticated investor. None of that skill set that I have is at this stage beneficial at all to a first home buyer.
Gotcha.
So everything that I know is not going to help them with their first home buyer deal now. However, there is somebody else in the business that is beautiful for that. So it's more just aligning the people that make sense to be together in the way society works anyway, and it's no different in a business.
Love it. And along your journey, have you done any acquisitions? Have you bought trail books or businesses?
No.
All organic?
Yeah. Yeah,
Love it.
no, we don't do. I've never bought in another book. We've never done an acquisition. That's not to say in the future we won't do acquisitions, and we likely will.
Mm.
Um, but all of our lead source and everything that's come in has just been through relationships that have been built and held over years and years and years. And I've never done paid referrals, the businesses that kind of you pay for your leads. We've never done that. We've never done paid marketing. We've really never done anything at all from a marketing or lead source front other than just relationships and then the compounding effect of a self-propagating book.
Amazing. So talk to me about how you build these relationships.
I don't think there is a mystery to this. It's as simple as getting to know other human beings. It isn't. I think the only thing that is a limiter for anybody is them not getting outside their comfort zone, likely, and being afraid of any level of rejection. And if you remove any of that fear, then you're pretty limitless as to who you can then integrate yourself with. And if you're worried about a no, or, I don't have time, or whatever that looks like, and you're not grafting in those early years to kind of build out those relationships, then that would be quite complicated, I think.
Mm.
And some of the closest friendships I have now would have been from places that historically other people were a little bit intimidated to approach to build relationships with. They're very busy people, very sophisticated people, and they may present I guess out of reach. So, and I just didn't have a belief system that we couldn't still get to know each other as human beings, and just genuinely, I'm so curious about you and your life. And, if we don't do any business together, I really don't care. Like, let's just
Mm.
sit down and get to know one another. It's almost like dating these people, really, isn't it? And then you just end up finding the people that your personality aligns with, and you form very deep relationships, and they end up being personal friendships instead of professional relationships. But it really just comes off the back of genuinely getting to know people as other human beings and not a commercial lead source. And once those relationships are embedded and you've built out friendships with them, the ripple effect of that, again, is difficult to contain. They end up going, you're an amazing person, we love hanging out, I want to introduce you to this person. And then it just grows naturally, and then your network starts meeting their network, and you just end up in this bubble of all the best humans that you want to hang out with every day and talk to every day.
How cool is that? I mean, we're talking about thousands of people,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
So, I
for
mean, I
sure.
think I think I think that's a little bit frame breaking, I think, because I totally agree with you that having genuine relationships, actually liking the people,
Yeah,
remembering things about them, they remember things
yeah,
about you, and then you want to do business together. But I think some of us, myself included, have a limiting thought that, well, maybe you can only do that with 10 people or
mm,
20 people, but you're doing that with 1,000. So, I mean, do you just remember their birthdays? Do you just naturally check
no,
in with them, or
no.
it's not that weird stuff? It's just genuinely,
No, no, not at all. No, God, I can't remember a birthday to save my life. No, it's none of that. It is just, you might meet, it doesn't need to be thousands of referral parties. It just needs to be a handful of initially potentially targeted lead sources that have a good multiplier.
okay,
So you could, let's say an accountancy firm, and we've got the same relationships any other brokerage would be expected to have. We know accountants, we know planners, we know real estate agents, we know buyers agents, like we know all of the same things. So it's really just from the outset kind of going, okay, well, this business or entity makes sense initially because the multiplier of that isn't just going to be one or two. You have a sophisticated business, but there is more than one of those. There is plenty of those. What doesn't make that for me personally worthwhile is if I don't get along with that person as just a actual human. So then it's just working out, okay, well, you have a brilliant business and there is an enormous amount of client lead funneling your business. Do we get along as individual people? Yes or no? Great. Let's
Mm,
get to know each other.
mm.
And then the conversations are just easy. It's no different to any other friendship that you have really in your life. It's exactly the same. There's none of that, disingenuine, I'm going to send them a birthday cake and a bunch of
Okay.
donuts every year. I don't do any of those things.
Yep.
Uh, and the closest lead sources that would be to us would say I'm actually exactly the opposite at this point. We are such good friends that they're like, I
Mm.
can't even get you on the phone. You won't answer me. Like, so it's exactly the opposite of that. It is a genuine relationship between people, not trying to manufacture a disingenuine interaction.
Very well said. And I suppose in turn, you are the sort of person who naturally has that multiplier as well. So,
Yes.
if somebody has a relationship with you, you come across so many people that you can think of them for natural referrals. Yeah. I think that's such a nice and normal way to put it rather than thinking,
Yeah.
you need this formula, you need to talk like this, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. So am I right in
No,
saying that you don't use a marketing agency?
no, we don't.
You don't do any paid ads?
We don't.
What do you do on socials? Are you active on socials?
I do. I've probably started sharing a little bit more about off the back of last year. Last year's the only year we've ever participated in any level of awards. We've never submitted our numbers prior to that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And some of it we didn't submit anyway. It was done on our behalf.
Mm.
So some of it, so last year's the first year we've done any of that. Prior to that, I really didn't do anything on socials at all. Once that started to happen, I then started to become really transparent around our numbers and what we do actually do. So I will talk about the numbers and the breakdown of what we're doing
Yeah.
and a little bit of that. And if there's, a level of team success or team whatever, but that's really all I'm talking about. I'm not on socials in any way talking about policy updates or whatever. There's no kind of marketing for the purpose of client intake. We don't have capacity. Our books are shut more than not.
So now that you're number one broker in Australia, first of all, why did you decide to share that information? And then secondly, is that having a positive impact now that people know how successful you are?
For recruitment. So we
Ah, gotcha.
not lead gen.
Yeah, it's all about
Yeah.
attracting good brokers.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So no, we have a capacity problem. So we need to recruit heavily. And it's much easier to do that if people know you exist.
100%. And if they know you're successful.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it was really for the purpose of recruitment and growth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Not leads, because we still haven't got to a point of recruiting enough to leverage that outcome for the purpose of lead gen.
okay. Love it. All right, let's talk a bit about how you run your business, like with the tech
Hmm.
stack. You
Yeah.
mentioned Connective before. Have you been with Connective since you started? Excellent. And you mentioned the Connective CRM,
Hmm.
Mercury. Are
Yeah.
you a big user?
Yeah, we currently do have everything inside Mercury. We use, I guess, bolt-ons to that to optimize what we can within Mercury through automations, and we'll continue to do that. And then I guess really, obviously quickly, everybody uses quickly. So
Yes.
we're um so we're going through just another whole wave of I guess, reinventing the tech side of it now, just again from a scale perspective, because anything that we do, given the volume that we're writing, has quite a decent ripple effect around outcome on efficiencies. So the compounding side of that is important. 1% margins of movement really do make a big difference for us. So we really are optimizing a lot of that. But we use a lot of automations that assist to make that more efficient currently.
Like what? What other software do you use?
We are Microsoft based, so anything that we're kind of doing in there with Power Automates, API, we'll use all of the AI. Obviously within the Copilot space, we'll use agents. Anything that we're kind of utilizing in there to optimize the external part of it, that can be emails, information, business information. We have digital agents within the business that we would use and can talk to for the purpose of upskilling, training, and coaching.
Okay.
Lots of tech in that inside there that we've built organically within the business.
So those, when you talk about the AI agents, do they live within the Microsoft ecosystem?
Yes.
And can you talk to me exactly about, how you guys use them?
In the same way that probably anybody would use any other team member in the business is how we utilize them.
So you're asking the AI agent to do things for you? What are we talking? Can you give me an example of what it can do for you?
Yeah, so really anything that agentic AI can
Yep.
do with a level of capability, and the limiter at the moment is actually less the capability and more your terms and conditions and being mindful of the external parties and how that works. So the limiter really isn't the capability of what it can do. The limiter is the uh, breach of terms and conditions around portals. So there are a lot of AI agents out there now, for instance, where they can go do pricing for you. That is absolutely a possibility, but the way that it needs to do that is to work around logins to get into systems for broker portals. Now, in a lot of the broker portals, to be able to use synthetic logins to do it is then a breach of the terms and conditions. So that's impossible to do. So not impossible, it's quite possible to do, but it's not within the scope of appetite currently for the portal on the other side. So
Okay.
then we need to bolster and have really good APIs that do integrate really well in that way. So there is a limiter of what can be done based on the risk appetite of the end user, and we would maximize everything to the point prior to that.
Who's driving the AI adoption within your business?
Well, I'm the nosiest person in the world, so that was really initiated by me. I started that really March last year, was kind of the point that I really embedded a lot of that stuff and getting curious about how we were going to bring that in. And once I really wanted to drive home how we are going to build out that space, then I hired somebody last year into our operations team that also has great skill in this area. And she continues to drive this really heavily as well. And she
Wow.
comes from a space that is very important, I think, from a risk and governance and compliance perspective, to make sure that this isn't something that you want to play with without good understanding and capability over security parameters. You need to have very good broad understanding of risk and governance. And if you don't have that, given the level of PII you're holding, you want to make sure that you're doing it safely.
Cool. So what's her title within the company or her
Head of,
role?
head of business operations.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned that there's 30 in the team.
Mm-hmm.
There are 5 brokers, including yourself. There's also a head of business operations. What else is there in the mix? What other roles?
So the support roles are the bulk of the team. So within those 5 brokers, each of those brokers then have a support team beneath them. So they'll have a strategist, which is similar to a credit analyst in everybody else's business, I suppose.
Onshore
And
or
then
offshore?
onshore. So we've got
Everyone onshore?
7 offshore.
Okay.
So yeah, the bulk is onshore. The credit is onshore. And yeah. So strategy is onshore. So
Yep.
anything at that level, we hold that onshore, sitting literally next to the brokers. So the efficiency there from how we're communicating, they might sit in on-client meetings. They're very much across these client files, and both parties are, which enables them to write volume because more than one person knows intimately those files at any given time. And then we would have broker associates at different levels. So they come in at different levels and based on their skill set and how they're tracking through their career progression. And then we have a post-approval team that does all of the settlements, and then post-settlement team.
Amazing. And so the people who are, so the offshore team, first of all,
Mhm.
where are they based?
Philippines.
Okay, cool. And are they doing the settlements function, did you say? Or what would you say there?
Mix. Yeah, they're the mix.
Mix.
They
Yeah.
they kind of nah, they sit sort of everywhere really. So everywhere of the breadth of the business, whoever is aligned based on where they need to sit is where they sit offshore. It doesn't need to be relegated. And again, same as onshore, from an upskilling perspective, we'll cycle them through into different parts of the business as well to upskill them.
How did you find your offshore team? Did you go through an agency, or how did you do it?
Yeah. Yeah, initially, when I first started and was looking offshore at that time, just purely based on capacity, we engaged Karuna. We were speaking to everybody really, but at that point, I had a capacity problem pretty quickly,
Yeah,
and it was really just based on who had people at the time, and that's really how that started.
cool. If we rewind 3 years back to when Focus
Mhm.
Finance, the brand, started, um, did you have a team from day one? Who were
Mhm.
your first initial hires? How did you know it was time to hire? Can you talk me through what happened there?
Yeah, no, I didn't at that point because we'd obviously just gone through disbanding the businesses. So really, I had one person at that stage 3 years ago. So one
What role
person
were they doing?
that just like
Everything.
an associate. Well, yeah, a lot of hats. Oh, yeah. So just sort of a broker associate role. And then, yeah. So from a hiring perspective, the answer to that is always really for us. And I don't think we've stopped hiring for 3 years.
Amazing. Do you have any thoughts on loan volume versus hiring a team? I'd be interested to hear if there's something that kind of ticks along in your mind, because you're at like 80
As a
mil a month
framework,
as a framework. Yeah.
yeah, yes and no. It's the reason that's difficult to answer is because of the multiplier of the client themselves. For instance, I could, from a diary management perspective, I don't really need to see that many clients because of the volume of lending that they hold. So my requirement for support, if I'm doing 300 loans a year at a high deal size, or I'm doing, 300 clients, but those 300 clients, let's say, then have, I don't do 300 clients, it would be more like I would do 100
Yeah.
that have 3 properties
Mm,
versus seeing 300 clients with 1 property. So
mm.
it's just niching out, I suppose, what maximizes your time. And it is much more effective to chat to one person that has 20 properties than chatting to 20 people.
Absolutely. Do you happen to know what your average loan size in your book is, and or average new loan size is?
Yeah, yeah. As a business, we would be no different to any other across the
Gotcha.
grounds that
Yep.
we would sit at about that 750K average deal size mark, business as a whole. And
Yes.
again, some of that comes from in the more mature businesses, you have to consider as well that you've got established clients in there that you might do a 50K cash out on, or you might do a 100K cash out on, but then you might do $2-3 million loans in there as well.
Mm.
But then your average is going to come back to like your 750K average deal size when you've got a more mature book that you're live in your back book talking to those clients all the time. So your average is always going to come back down when you're doing 50, 100, 150K top ups as well.
So true. And across the industry, we see exactly that, about
100%.
750K as an average new loan size.
Yeah.
And the average loan size within the book is about 550, maybe 500 to 550, which sounds like
Yeah.
it's pretty bang
Yeah,
on.
we're really no different there. That's more business perspective. I have a more niche client base within that, me personally, but the business as a whole is really no different to any other.
Okay, cool. But as you were saying, I'm sure that there are some clients who have, let's say, 4 loans, and their
100%.
total exposure might be $5 million plus or something.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, excellent. Which, if you have good relationships with people, you get exposure to that, and then, as you say, you're only talking to one person, but you're earning trail and upfronts on this really large amount.
Absolutely. And again, if we consider for sophisticated clients that might be Sydney based, let's say, and their owner occupied property in debt is quite large. And then you're really just building out the additional properties outside that. So your first deal with them might be their $5 million Sydney property.
Gotcha.
And then you might be doing at that point the 5, 6, 700K purchases for their,
Okay.
but for them, you might have done quite a sizable loan initially, and you're just then bolting on the rest. Yeah.
Mm, awesome. It's Katie, something that stands out about when speaking with you is that you would be a pleasure to deal with, and you're very, very normal and enthusiastic, and, and transparent.
Yeah.
It's kind of not rocket science, right? If you're somebody who
No.
you can relate to and you're not trying too hard,
Yeah.
people want to do business with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be hard. Yeah. Anything that you're doing, I don't have a philosophy of going. There's a level of graft in your early years, absolutely. But if you just show up and enjoy the relationships that you're holding with your team, with your referral parties, with your clients, with whoever, there shouldn't be difficulty in that, really. If now obviously there's different personality types in there, and some are going to render different results to others. And there is a level of having gears and going up and down your gears based on your client base. For sure, we can all do that. Any skilled broker can do that. Absolutely. There's parts of your personality that you might leave out of that conversation. There's parts of it you'll pull into others. But everybody has the diversity of their own character that you can lean into for one conversation or another. And that all of it is still very genuine. They are still all parts of your personality. You're just leaning into some parts more than others for particular clients. And they're still all genuine, authentic interactions. And you're building out great relationships with these people. And they are skilled people. And I think that's another thing as a business owner too, that people probably don't leverage as much as they could. Learn from your client base. They have great roles. They have great businesses. They have families. And I'm a mum. I'm a single mum. So, I have other single mums with businesses in my client book. So whenever I'm chatting to them, I'm like, how are you navigating this? Tell me about your life. So I will get to know them and be curious about things that I'm going through. So the bonding, I suppose, from that is going, all right, well, you've got a great business. That's amazing. Tell me how you got from this size to this size. What did you do? And then we have that conversation. And again, it's not thinking as linear or as closed down as my role here is just your mortgage broker and that's all we're going to talk about. Like, you have a really interesting role. Tell me what a day in the life of your role is. And then I get to know them and what their days look like. How sustainable is your role? What were your difficulties in your role? I know these people very, very well.
That's brilliant. Katie, what do you think about, we're in 2026 now. From your experience and in your career, what do you think about 2026 relative to the past as far as opportunities in broking?
I think opportunity is kind of in the eye of the beholder. And the opportunist will always find an opportunity regardless of climate or market. And that is no different now to 10 or 15 years ago.
Response. How do you find your staff? How are you building this team? Are you listing ads on Seek? Is it word of mouth, social media? How are you doing it?
There is a mix here. We really don't have that many in here from Seek. It would be largely, some of them have known me for a very long time. And like I said, one of them that works here, Jordan, that works here, I think I might have done Jordan's first investment property maybe 12 years ago. So it's just, some of them are relationships that you've kind of built out of all of the years of being in the industry. So there's a little bit of that. We have a couple that are from Seek. And then there is a little bit from other brokerages that know us and have recommended somebody that they're not in a position to hire at that time. So then there's been a bit of that. It's a combination of kind of everything, to be honest. There isn't kind of one linear source of going, this is just a pool of talent over here, and we're going to funnel it all into that. It's a combination.
Okay. No silver bullet, bit of a mix.
Nah, it's really just the silver bullet is being open to the conversations everywhere.
Okay. Yep. And I imagine your personality is naturally a filter. There are certain people who are going to be sort of drawn to you, and there'll be other people
100%.
who might think, you know what, Katie's too much.
She
That's
is
not for
not
me.
for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no right or wrong in that, you know.
Hmm.
There is absolutely no right or wrong. We don't want to work together if that is not a natural fit, you know. And same with the broader team. We have many diverse personalities in this team. There, you know, a whole spectrum of personalities,
Mm.
but the core truth of it is we all get along as actual human beings. We all hang out together socially. So it's not like there is this kind of A team and B team and, you know, subsections of it. Everyone hangs out together. Friday morning, tomorrow morning, this week, we'll go on a beach walk together and then we'll do that. Like, you're just hanging out with people you like. So, but you don't need to be the same type of person. You can be respectful of differences in personalities and still be aligned.
Fantastic. And the brokers that you employ, are they PAYG employees or are
Yes,
some of them commission only? How does that work?
all PAYG. They
And
get
do you,
commission as well, but
yes.
they're PAYG.
Now, something that I'm interested in is, do you have a theory or a sort of an approach for broker remuneration? How do you think about it? You know, I suppose as the brokerage owner, you want people to succeed and write as much as they can, which you need to incentivize. How do you do it?
I think there needs to be an element of I've always done PAYG. And that really was my mindset of coming out of the bank, because there are people that are absolutely brilliant and would probably be a very good broker and great for this industry, but their lifestyle or home life or whatever is not capable of being able to just go straight into commission only and make that leap. That's very hard to do for a lot of people, more so than ever. The economy's insane. So there, for me, I just really wanted to back in that the people that I was hiring, because it plays a long game, right? You know, with that kind of model, there is a lag of going the profitability. If you're shelling out the salary straight out the gate, there is quite a lag when you're upskilling people into those roles before there really is any level of commission that's coming in from the lending. So you've got to hire well and back in who you're hiring, then that eventually catches itself. But there is a lag, which is why so many people do go the com only, because there's a lot less risk in it. You haven't had to put the salary on the table for a potential result. I think my situation is somewhat different in that, because I supply all the leads anyway. So I don't need to hire somebody that I know is going to bring in the business and back that. I just need to know that they're a great human being that is going to do brilliant things with the client and a sharp enough operator to process them through.
Totally. It's sort of short-term pain, long-term gain, I think.
100%. Yeah,
well, often with
definitely.
commission-only scenarios, people can get a little bit confused about who owns the trail and who owns the client.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
with PAYG, it's abundantly clear. Katie brings the clients in, you write the loans, everyone gets
Yeah.
paid well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm very, I guess, passionate about making sure that the brokers, anybody that's working extraordinarily hard, they deserve a good outcome for that. They absolutely do. Regardless of who brings in the lead, I can't write it all myself. I can't write 1 billion by myself. I mean, you probably can in different models. You can write 1 billion yourself, but
Also,
Ah, it's absolutely possible to do. There is enough efficiencies in there. There is, again, I'm talking about a client base where potentially you might see a couple, you know, a few hundred clients, but the multiplier of the lending that's out of it, you could absolutely do it. Why? So, you know, there are all high tides rise all boats. The journey is so much better doing it with people. It's not how you did it, it's who you did it with. So I would much rather not be the center of that. And I've supported multiple people to write several hundred million than me write 1 billion myself.
love it. Love it, Katie. How do you think about reinvesting in the business versus taking profits for yourself?
Reinvest. If you
Reinvest,
always
double down.
reinvest. Yeah. Double down. Yeah, all on black.
Love it.
Yeah, nah, reinvest. I've reinvested the whole way through. So, and again, because I believe in a PAYG model, necessarily for growth, so you're reinvesting at that point. I also believe in growing into the broker role. So I coach them into their roles. So I'll hire them from out of industry or with a lower level of skill at that point, and all of them are coached through into broker. So I'm not picking a broker off the shelf and bringing them in and calling a broker. They start in the support roles and they're coached into a broker role. So that model does require reinvestment because there is, again, a lack of the skill set coming through. And then scale. Any business anywhere, if you're scaling rapidly, requires reinvestment.
What's the most one of your brokers has ever written in a year?
In a year? Well, Maddie wrote 25.5 million this month.
Oh,
So
Maddie's having a good
Mads,
month.
I know. Yeah. No, Mads is doing amazing. So
How long's she
she
been a
cracked the
broker?
20. She come back in as broker March last year. So yeah. So she's now at the 12-month mark back in role. She did start as a broker the prior year, but then she went on a trip to Europe. And so she was out for a little bit, but yeah, she come back in swing in March last year. So a
Well done,
year
Maddie.
back in full. I know. But really, Ash in my team, she's not far behind in this month either. She's going to write 20 million as well this month. So it's, they're all sort of trending all to be at around that same level.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
I think more broadly, if I go all the way back from a whole career perspective, which is a long time ago, um, there was, especially at that stage, and I mean, again, industry wise, we are still heavily male dominated, and even more so when I started, anyone in higher level roles tend to be all men. And I think there was a level of, at that stage, leadership had to look a certain way. You had to be an elevated leader. You had to be separated from your team. It had to be all very professional. There, you had to, anything that was determined as a weak skill that women possess, generally empathy and care, and we're all kind of had this perception in leadership that had no place. And it's easy when you're very young to go, well, they're all successful leaders. This is how that's supposed to be. There isn't any variance to this. That's just, if you're going to be a leader, you need all these heavy, masculine, aggressive, ego, power qualities. And that's how we do leadership. And there was a pocket of my career early on where I go, well, and I do have a bolder personality anyway. But for women, if you're like that, you can then be intimidating, and then you're too much, and then you're painful, especially to senior leadership and all of these things. And we're getting to a point that all of the other qualities that tend to be more innately female, that warmth and nurture and protection and passion in that space from an empathetic leadership model, is absolutely fine and almost a catalyst to success. It is some of the best things to drive an outcome because you actually give a shit. And that is completely fine to be that way. And it took me a little longer because of the industry at that point in time. It's correcting. But at that time when I started, you don't be like that. Don't be like that. Don't let anyone know that you really give a shit about your team. Don't give a shit about your team because they're too hard to cut then. So that was very much a corporate leadership style, and any females, especially powerful voices in the room, were just annoying. And I got comfortable pretty quick with being annoying, but you've got to really push through those barriers at that point in time and go, if I'm too much, go find less. And I'm okay with it. And
Katie,
I
you
wish
are
I knew it
brilliant.
earlier.
That's fantastic. Um, Last one. What is the future of mortgage broking in Australia?
Oh, a lot of diversity in that. I think we'll go through a few waves of this. So I think we'll definitely more and more embrace synthetic outcomes from digital lending that will continue to have a driver. And it's kind of the same as every industry and everything we've ever done, where we chase the new and shiny thing, which right now is AI, and maximizing to the nth degree of how that works. So you can have a completely digital experience end to end with no human interaction whatsoever. And we have a pocket of people that find a level of comfort in that. They would much rather order Uber Eats than ring the restaurant. So there is a wave of generation coming through that is much more comfortable to have that level of interaction, and they're finding face-to-face human interaction or even a phone call more uncomfortable. So there is a pocket of that and enabling for that generation. And then we're going to go through a process of realizing we've lost a little bit of authenticity in our interactions day to day. And I think we're going to be able to cut away so much of the grunt and the grind, and then come back to more and more and more actual human interactions for these for this lending. And a broker will end up looking a little bit more like a BDM style portfolio manager of a lot more clients, because there's digital being supported rather than the broker is kind of end to end on the file. But I think we'll see this in a couple of different ways, and depending on how accurate conspiracy theories are about AI shutting the world down and how that goes, because we may just end up all the way back to paper-based settlements and we're writing it all on bits and paper if AI completely shuts the world down anyway. So there's there is a lot of iterations of how that's going to look over the coming years, and again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that is. It doesn't matter how that's going to evolve. All that matters is that you're willing to evolve with it and capitalizing on your opportunities as they come through, and enjoying what you're doing while you're doing it. That's really the core of what it is anyway. Don't need to worry about it. Don't stress about things that aren't here yet.
Extremely well said. Katie Thomas, thank you so much. That's Katie from Focus Finance. I really appreciate it. You were great.
No worries at all. Thank you so much.